Hello, and welcome back to Awaken with Lauren Wild. I am your podcast host, as well as your embodied astrologer and purpose guide and coach. So it's been a minute since I've been on live, man. There is a few kind of like personal updates that I want to share. And mostly I want to get into the full moon in Gemini that is coming up at the time of this recording, a couple of shifts and changes that are coming, and then just a touch on the astrology of 2025. I have a whole offer for that I'm going to be sharing here. And I just want to make sure everybody is prepared for the annual Gemini full moon, also known as the cold moon, and what it symbolizes and what it could be bringing into your world or out of your world, depending on where you are in your life cycle. For those of you that are joining visually on YouTube, this is my familiar Maui. He literally sits on the back of my chair constantly. Everybody knows him because he sits there. He's very protective of sitting there. And if you are interested in physically seeing him, make sure that you look at the link in the podcast description and you can go to the visual component that is through YouTube. All right, so let's go through a little bit of announcements just to kind of like get it out of the way, and then we'll get straight into insights. So the personal things that have been going on for me have been largely health related, and very much due to the fact that I have spent this entire year fully transitioning into being a full single parent. And that has been a bigger undertaking than I thought it was. And I knew it was going to be a lot. So, I've had a lot of people in the personal world asking me, like, can we hang out? Like, when can I see you? And it's kind of like a PSA. Now, granted, during the dark part of the year, which is from Samhain till Imbolc, from October 31st until February 1st, I am historically very underground to recover from pushing so hard during the solar months work-wise. I try to really rest during the dark part of the year. However, this year I've been sick. I have been dealing with sickness for almost 6 months. That is actually what the full moon has been largely about for me. I got COVID in early June and didn't know it. And, now I'm in the 6-month mark of the full moon in Gemini, which is the culmination of the outcome of that. And it's really requiring me to have to dial back a lot on channeling and working with people one-on-one and really conserving my energy and my focus and my power for my career, my children, and my health. And that's a bit about like what we're going to talk about with the full moon in Gemini, which largely tends to bring up the feeling of like there's too many things to try to focus on. I can't be in my power because my power is moving in, it's like moving in too many directions, and I need to pull in my power and focus on like 1 to 3 things max. And so again, we're going to talk about that in a minute once we get past my personal stuff. So because of that, I have made a decision when it comes to the moon reports. I'm only going to be doing new moon reports and full moon reports instead of every single week on Mondays. And then on those other days, we're going to have recorded sessions with different people, so different interviews. And I'm really excited about that because I'm like really juicy about wanting to create a platform for other people to share their story and their medicine. And so I think that that's going to help with the podcast project, because I want to be a podcaster. I want to be a really good professional audio visual content creator. And I own a school and a coaching business, and I have 3 kids, and I'm a single mom, and I'm dealing with possible autoimmune issues. Like, I got a lot going on, guys. I promise. Like, I'm not trying to ignore you. I'm not, it's just the amount of focus and the amount of no that I have to say to make space for the yes is is very much on top of me, which is, again, a great segue into what we're going to talk about with this full moon in Gemini. That are some core key concepts and of the teachings of the divine feminine that I'm going to share. The other announcement is that I have promotions pricing for the 2025 reading and Golden Shadow readings. They're the only ones that I have promo pricing on right now because they're really like the best ones to focus on at this time of the year. So the Golden Shadow reading is my natal chart reading. It's where if you are just getting into astrology, you're trying to understand your birth chart, you're trying to understand, you know, the challenges you came in with, the karma that you brought, the gifts that you have, and how to utilize them. And you've never really had a reading before, especially a reading with me, make sure that you click that Golden Shadow. You can also give it as a gift if, you know, you want to give the gift of insight. That's an option as well. The next thing is my 2025 transit readings. So those are also on promo price. This year, I have 12 spots for both, and I've made a major change and decision that once those 12 spots are full for both of them, I am no longer offering live channeled readings. The only option will be pre-recorded. So you'll have to fill out the intake. I will go through your chart, answer the questions that you have in the intake form, record it, send you your report to your email, and then you'll watch it. And so that is a major change that is coming this year for me to preserve my channel, which is my channel, like my vessel, like my spiritual channel, not just like my YouTube channel and my podcast, by the way. But the messages that are trying to come through me, especially as Pluto is starting to square my Pluto in the 11th house, I'm really feeling this call to channel for the collective again, not as much about like one-on-one personal in the same way. I don't know if that will change over time again, but I just wanted to share that if you have an interest in having a live one-on-one reading with me to understand your 2025 themes, challenges at a promotion price. I only do this twice a year at winter and summer solstice. Like, get on it. Okay, that's the end of my promoting, I promise, for those things. I've got one other thing, but I'll save that for the end, and it's short. All right, so let's go ahead and get into our content. I have a, let me pull it up. So for those of you that are listening auditory, I have pulled up the visual component. So if you're listening on the podcast, I'm going to do my best to explain without a visual component, but you might want to go watch it this time so that you can see the chart. This is something that I'm going to be bringing in to these new and full moon readings. So let's go ahead and get into it. The full moon in Gemini. Let me go over some of the themes, and then I will talk about the actual astrology. So we have a full moon in Gemini around this time every year. A full moon is when the sun is exactly opposite the moon. Well, this time every year, the sun is in Sagittarius, and the moon, the full moon, is its exact polarity, which is Gemini. So we have one every single year. It's called the cold moon. And it has its own unique themes that it always brings up, but every year it's slightly different because of the planets that are going on, the degree of Gemini, the other aspects that are in Gemini, et cetera, et cetera. So, like I said, we have a cold moon, which is a full moon in Gemini every year. It's just that it has unique themes based on the astrological transits that are happening at this time. So it's always different. The energy is always different. So a couple of the Gemini full moon themes is going to be feeling pulled in too many directions, noticing that you are staying busy, but you're not really getting anything done. The awareness that you have too many options or things to focus on to make an actual decision. Mental overwhelm from trying to do and communicate too many ideas, actions, and concepts all at once. Deep mental reflection on the past events that took place around early June 6th of 2024 to be exact, which was the new moon in Gemini. Noticing where your spiritual faith stands these days and how it is either empowering you or disempowering you. Feeling scattered and like you're all over the place, and a really deep need for integration and synthesis. And I'll just touch on what integration and synthesis are from an embodied perspective for just a moment, but I'm actually going to do a whole pod on just that concept. So integration and synthesis are slightly different processes. Integration is when we go through something, whether it's mental or physical, spiritual, etc. And it's a big feeling, like it's an experience would be a great way to say that. And oftentimes it causes a lot of change in us. It kind of causes the scaffolding of our psyche to get all picked up and moved around. And if you've ever heard of like having the rug pulled out from underneath you, it's a bit like that. Like when we need to integrate is when we need to slow down, not bring in anything new, and we need to just implement the new thing, the new concepts, the new ideas, and practice them over and over and focus on that until they are no longer a concept, but an embodied behavior or like an automatic response. So until we can really calm down our nervous system and like really become the concept, live and embody the concept, we haven't actually embodied it. We haven't actually integrated it, and we need to synthesize. Now, synthesis is a little bit more of a mental process, like a cognitive process. If anybody listening is on the neurodivergent spectrum, like I am, synthesis is truly one of my biggest challenges, and it is the conversion of one thing to another. So I am an excellent communicator verbally, but if you ask me to convert my thought into written language, that is a huge actual disability that I have. So I have a hard time with synthesizing like words that I'm speaking into written words. Another concept of synthesis is being able to take many, many, many concepts and begin to synthesize or alchemize them into one overarching new concept or lifestyle. So to synthesize something is to basically take 2 or 3 ideas, merge them into one big concept, and then be able to live it. And so that is integration and synthesis. So what you need to know about Gemini is essentially Gemini's great gift is to be a jack of all trades, to be infinitely curious and to want to learn everything and know everything and tinker with everything. Because at the end of the day, Gemini is the learner. Like it wants to learn because it purely loves to learn and it's curious. Now, its polarity is Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is also the lifelong learner of the chart. But Sagittarius says, I seek the truth, whereas Gemini is very curious. I want to know, right? I want to think about it. I want to contemplate it. And they are both very driven towards insight, information, a concept, but they're different in the way that they want to integrate it. So like I said, Gemini kind of doesn't want to really know the concept of truth. Like it's interested, it's stimulated by the idea. It's contrarian. It's like, well, who said that's the truth, right? Like it loves to kind of be the trickster and challenge things. It's Gemini, contrarian. Whereas Sagittarius is like the depth seeker. It's 9th house. It's higher education, like college level, guru teachings, right? Like it's you're really deepening into something higher mind, you know, past high school essentially level, trying to understand something. And it wants to know the truth. It doesn't want to just hear a million theories and concepts. It wants to pass by all the concepts so that it can master something. And so Sagittarius is the teacher, preacher, guru of the zodiac. So like I said, they both want information and they're both driven for data and information, but they are different in the way that they want to utilize that information. So if you are a visual watcher right now, I am looking at the screen. What I want you to know for listeners is that the sun is going to be at 23 degrees of Sagittarius and the moon is at 23 degrees Sagittarius, which is exactly opposite, which makes it the full moon. At this time, the North Node is going to be at 2 degrees of Aries. It is in its last month of being in Aries. As of January 1st, it will hit 0 degrees of Aries. And by January 11th, it will be at 29 degrees of Pisces. And we are officially in the new nodal axis by mid-January. Now, at the time of this lunation, the moon is in a very wide conjunction to Jupiter retrograde, but I'd count it. And then Mercury is also retrograde at this time at 6 degrees, which is technically not conjunct this aspect, but it is opposite Jupiter retrograde and it is stationing direct. And so it is, an opportunity for miscommunication. It's also an opportunity with all of these retrograde aspects to reflect back on things from our past that we need to bring back here to present time to integrate so that we can really and truly lean into a higher expression of our sense of truth. And this is not necessarily like the easiest thing because it really requires us to be able to communicate. It requires us to be able to talk it out. Gemini is a verbal communicator. It's a writer. It's a storyteller. It's an educator. It really wants to use its hands and its mouth to talk, to process, to communicate. And you may find this overarching need to really and truly like share your story, or to kind of like journal and write down your experiences from the past year, and all of the things that are kind of jumbled up in your mind may really take center stage at this time. So what you need to know is that some of the like major aspects of, or themes, I guess you would say, of this full moon is that, with Gemini, what we're really being asked is like, make a decision. What are you going to do? Because at the entire time of this, we've also got a square to Saturn in Pisces, and Saturn in Pisces, which is very Capricorn, is essentially like a dream without a plan, is just a wish. And we've got a lot of mutable energy, so things could go a lot of different directions. Nothing's really set in stone yet. We're again being asked to look back and think about things that we have been inspired by in the past, or visions that we had, but it wasn't time yet. And we didn't have the right people in place yet. We didn't have the right teachings in place yet. Like, we hadn't gone through the experience, which is very Sagittarian. We have to experience it. We have to learn through experience to have been able to be successful in the vision that we were gifted years ago, right? And that is truly a very like Sagittarian concept, is big vision. Sagittarius is very visionary, and it is also very psychic in the clairsentience world. So the ability to see, to have insight and vision. And so why I share that is because I tell people all the time, like, I'm not really the kind of astrologer that's just going to tell you a bunch of complex stuff and then not give you any advice on how to deal with it or how to make the most of the aspect. And so at this time, you really want to allow yourself some time to create a vision board if you're feeling drawn to that. And if you're not drawn to the visual aspect of that, I want you to just write out, like, what is your heading? So I'm a Sagittarius rising, and I feel so Sagittarian. And I say all the time to people, like, I don't need to know every detail to get started. I just need a heading. And I always think of Jack Sparrow in the Pirates of the Caribbean, when he's like, we have our heading, and he's got this big map, right? That's like literally the whole world, the ocean of the entire world, and he's good to go. And that's very Sagittarian, because it's like, I just need to know which direction we're moving in. Are we going east? Are we going north? Like, I just don't waste my time. Like, just tell me which direction we're going. We will deal with the challenges as we get there. We will fight the sea creatures as we get there. Whatever's lurking under the sea, we will deal with it in the moment. That's very Sagittarian. It's like, just tell me, like, where are we going? Are we going corporate? Are we going a self-starter entrepreneur, like which direction are we moving in? And Gemini would get lost in the details. Gemini would be like, well, there's this idea and there's this idea and there's that idea and there's this idea. And Sagittarius and the sun in Sagittarius and Saturn in Pisces are like, Gemini, I need you to focus. Pick 3 things. That's it. Do your pros and cons, create like hobbies, but I need you to reel it in and I need you to focus. Because Jupiter is in its downfall in Gemini. Jupiter works like a magnifying glass. It really and truly wants to expand whatever it touches. And with Gemini, Gemini just goes in too many directions and it leaks energy. It makes me think of one of the new moon circles I ran earlier this year for Jupiter and Gemini, and we used a styrofoam cup. And I asked everyone to take a nail and to put a hole in the styrofoam cup of all the different like things that you're doing, all the different expenditures of your energy and time and your value of resources, to put a little like pinhole in it. And then we put water in it, and water just comes like running out of it. And that is very much like Jupiter and Gemini. It can't focus. Its energy is frenetic. It just kind of like is chaotic. It goes everywhere. And that's great for things like collaboration and networking and communicating ideas and synthesis of communication into major platforms. But on a personal level, it can make us feel chaotic and frantic and ungrounded. And like there's too many options. And so because of that, I am paralyzed to take any direction. And therefore, I'm just going to sit here and think about all of the different ideas that I have and not do anything about it. Sagittarius is like a fire sign. It's like, man, get going, like pick a direction and just start moving. Like you just got to put it into action. You have to experience it. You'll gain, lived in wisdom by experiencing it. Get going. All the fire signs are a version of that, right? And so what I want to leave you guys with today is a teaching that is core in my teachings. And that is your yes, your sacred yes, means no to everything else. And I'll say that again. Your yes means no to everything else. And so in order for this to work, you have to know your yes. And in order for you to know your yes, you have to know your values. And in order for you to know your values, you have to know your passions, your sense of worthiness, your sense of self-concept. And this is a large part of the work that we do in my containers. And so what I want you to take some time to think about with this, solar energy in Sagittarius is division cast. You just want to kind of write everything down. What are the things that you love? What are the ideas that you have? And just get them onto paper. Just write them down and just vision cast them. That's where you have to start. Because what I want you to start to think about is I am leaking energy when I keep saying yes to things that I know I'm supposed to be saying no to, but I'm afraid I'm going to hurt their feelings, or, they're going to judge me if I bring store-bought instead of homemade, whatever. All of those things, you are all unique. You can recognize, like, if your anchor vision is you being, a cook, or a cookbook author, then it makes total sense for you to bring in baked goods to your kids' function, because that could be entrepreneurial for you. You're building a brand, you're building a name for yourself. But if you're not working in that world, then go to Dorothy Lane or Whole Foods and get something pretty and drop it off and let that be what it is. Keep focusing your energy on what is your yes. My limit for you though is 3. You only get 3 things to focus on. If you are a parent, guess what? One of them is being a parent. So that means you got 2. And that's it. That's all I want you to focus on right now until we get back to the new moon in Gemini. Okay. So I hope that this was helpful for you. If this was, I want to just touch for just a moment on 2025 astrology. So in 2025, the nodal axis, the eclipses are moving into Pisces and Virgo, although we get one more in March in Aries. That's the last one. And then we've also got 3 planets moving signs, and we just had Pluto move into Aquarius. So we are going to see Neptune move into 0 degrees of Aries. We are going to see Saturn move into 0 degrees of Aries. And we are going to see Uranus move into 0 degrees of Gemini this year. This is really big. We're also going to have a Venus retrograde in Aries as well. So like we got a huge year coming up. I am super passionate about providing the insights and some ideas as to how to work with this energy for the best outcome individually. If you have any interest in that, you're going to see in the link below a opportunity to register for a free 1 hour excuse me, I had a frog in my throat, a free 1 hour webinar on 2025 astrology. In that session, we're going to talk briefly about some of these aspects. There will actually be a procession of 3 of these, but they're kind of like working their way up. So I just want you guys to know that this year is it's just such a huge year. Like it's just such a huge year to have all of these planets changing at once, within 6 months of period of each other, like with eclipses, one of which is a total lunar eclipse. We've got some serious change coming, and I want you guys to be prepared. I want you to feel grounded and centered in yourself as these changes come, so that you're not, reaching for somebody else's self-concept that is not authentic to you, and you lose yourself in it. That's what I really don't want to happen to you. So I hope that this was helpful. If you want to grab one of those remaining spots for a promotion reading, you will see that in the link below. And then also, if you have any interest in potentially joining my group coaching program, Awaken, we are going to be learning astrology starting January the 6th, I believe. And my whole Soul and Synastry program, which is a $5,000 program, is going to be taught by me, live instructed, and we're going to move through it. So if you have any interest in developing your astrology skills on a personal level, and you want to be in a group of like-minded individuals, and you want life advice and insight, I strongly encourage you to check it out. You'll also see the link for a free consult to see if that's the right fit for you. All right, guys, I hope that this was helpful. I will see you in our next Lunation report, which will be for the next new moon. All right, I hope you guys have a great day. Until then, bye.